There's a conversation that people bring up, that prostitution is legal in Colombia, and it is. But sex tourism is illegal. I think that it wasn't Colombian money that was financing Pablo Escobar. It was American money. It was the American money for cocaine that fueled that narco terrorism. And I believe it's the American addiction to sex now that's causing a lot of this pain in Medellin specifically.
You obviously work a lot with the Colombian police and people pretty high up in law enforcement and stuff. What are their feelings about all these guys coming down to look for love and then they're getting drugged and robbed? Do they care? With all the hundreds of maybe thousands of people that you've helped arrest, do you see any common patterns or demographics or interests, activities, whatever, that are common between all the people that do these crimes? Guys, I am here today to talk to Tyler, or as I like to call him, Gringo Batman of Medellin. He's kicking indoors, not taking names, and making a change. I think a lot of us can learn something from Tyler of how to be a good model citizen and inspire others for change. He's even been awarded the Shield of Dipro and the Coronation Medal from the Colombian National Police. You can see the little police hat in the background there. Tyler, thank you for being on. Could you please let us know a bit about where you're from and how you ended up in Medellin?
Yeah, my name is Tyler Schwab. I'm the founder of Libertias International. I grew up in Wyoming here in the United States. And when I was 19, I left Wyoming and I went and lived in Dominican Republic for a few years. And that's when I was really exposed to human trafficking, to the exploitation of minors. Dominican Republic, what I saw is a lot of familial trafficking, family members that sell other members of their family, or men from Europe who were exploiting young girls living in Dominican Republic. And that really changed my life when I was 19 years old. From 19 to 23, I was trying to find my path and trying to find where I fit in this world. And the anti-human trafficking is where I settled, really. And how I ended up in Medellin, Colombia is I got a call one day from someone from the Department of Homeland Security back in 2019 that they had just rescued a 16-year-old girl and they wanted help with her healing and her aftercare. And so I flew down, and I think, a lot of people, when they go to Medellin, they're struck by the beauty, the climate, the food, the coffee, all the good stuff that the city has to offer. But what struck me is this little girl, this 16-year-old girl that I'd met, and she'd been trafficked by two American men who are both serving time in federal prison now, Victor Galarza and Herbert Fletcher. They had trafficked her for a long time, sold her to their friends. They had branded her, they had tattooed her, they had put her in porn videos and uploaded all these different porn videos to Pornhub and Xvideos and all these different porn sites. And there were a number of other American foreign men from Korea, from India, from Israel that had also abused this little girl. And I was so heartbroken at this, because I'd never met someone that had been abused by men from so many different countries around the world. And it was just like the very tip of the iceberg. Like, the more time I spent in Medellin getting to know this girl, she introduced me to her friends who were abused by the same men. There was girls that started to reach out saying that they were currently being abused by American men, that they had been abused by American men and were looking to get help. I had been exposed to trauma and abuse and trafficking before, but to know that the absolute worst of people from my country, and I love my country very much, the absolute worst that the United States has to offer, are traveling down to Colombia to find the most vulnerable, the weakest, to abuse and to exploit. It was just an injustice that I couldn't sit with, and so I decided to stay in Medellin, working to, for one, support the survivors that were coming and asking for help, and then two, to do everything in my power to ensure these American pedophiles, these predators, pay for the abuse that they're inflicting on the vulnerable girls of Colombia.
That's amazing, man. Thank you. We thank you for your work. I just need to ask you a question now, because we're going to talk about one of these cases of these American men that you spoke about. I'm just going to read a little bit from a newspaper article that just came out actually a couple of months ago here in Medellin. A retired military man who arrived in Medellin in 2020. He lived in an apartment in the La Floresta neighborhood. So he lived here for a while, but then in September 2023, the police started receiving more and more calls from neighbors complaining about noise, parties, and the number of unknown people entering his apartment, many of which who are minors. So after gathering some evidence, on Monday, February 26th, 2024, an American accused of sexual crimes against minors was captured. Tyler, can you tell us a bit about what this story encapsulated and how you ended up there alongside the Colombian police doing some justice on this day?
I was there in an observatory role. I was there at the invitation of the Colombian National Police, and I have a background in social work. So in the case that we found any victims of trafficking, victims of abuse on site, I was there to provide any kind of aftercare and trauma-sensitive care as those girls are leaving a situation of exploitation.
Do you think the fact that prostitution is legal in Colombia has anything to do with the frequency of foreigners being caught here with minors? I guess maybe the lines of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable get pushed and pulled, and there's a lot of gray area. What do you think about this?
There's a conversation that people bring up, that prostitution is legal in Colombia, and it is. It is legal in Colombia, but sex tourism is illegal. Traveling down to pay for sex is illegal in the States as well. People can be prosecuted for that. It's not likely they will prosecute unless there's a minor involved. When the discussion comes up of if it's illegal or not, it is illegal. Like, they can prosecute you for traveling to engage in sexual exploitation and sex tourism. Even when an American travels, they still have to abide by American law, as well as the country's law that they're visiting, which makes sex tourism a crime. I've talked with some Colombian activists as well that have helped educate me on the fact to where, because in the past, I put all the blame on these American guys. Like, it's the American desire for sex, it's the American predators, it's these awful human beings that travel down that are creating this demand. And I still believe that. But, Colombia for a long time has been looking to shake its reputation of like the narco culture and the prostitution. Like, it's a culture that's existed for a long time, and they're still trying to get rid of that. And so, yeah, I think that does bring some of these characters, like these evil people, these disgusting human beings. And I know that they don't just come from the States. I know they come from all over. It's just the population that we serve. It's mainly American. So that's why I should be more general and call them foreigners, but it's just not the population that I'm seeing. I really do believe that, Colombia has suffered for a long time because of the addictions of Americans specifically. I think that it wasn't Colombian money that was financing Pablo Escobar. It was American money. It was the American money for cocaine that fueled that narco terrorism. And I believe it's the American addiction to sex now that's causing a lot of this pain in Medellin specifically. But Colombia does have a responsibility as well. They need to invest more in their legal system and keep trying hard to shed themselves of that culture of narcos and of prostitution.
You obviously work a lot with the Colombian police and people pretty high up in law enforcement and stuff. What's the general consensus within Medellin about all these sex tourist type of people that are only coming to take advantage of the women here?
Oh, they hate them. They absolutely hate them. They come to fuel the culture that they're trying so hard to get rid of. I've met so many police officers, Colombians, and expats too, like expats like yourself that love the city, that love everything about it, love the history, and love that 40 years ago it was the most dangerous city in the world, and now they've pulled themselves out of that to make it just like this shining green beacon like to the rest of Latin America. And these Americans that are coming, even if they're not looking to abuse minors or looking to party well into the night, well into the morning with no regard to their neighbors, they hate them.
In terms of the police and all the law enforcement and stuff, I have my own thoughts about this. But what are their feelings about all these guys coming down to look for love? Use that, we'll do one of these ones. And then they're getting drugged and robbed. Do they care?
Man, that's a good question. I think they care. I think they care because that does affect like their tourism dollars. With the drugging that's going on and the deaths of foreigners, there's something like 20-something foreigners that have been killed in Medellin just this year. I'll just speak frankly. I don't think that they receive a lot of compassion, because I think a lot of these people that are coming looking for love, they're looking in the wrong places and they're looking to, again, exploit vulnerable women. And they get themselves into trouble and they end up getting drugged and dying. I'm not saying that people come to the city looking for that should end up dead, but they're definitely not looking in the right places. And I think the police, I don't know if they're giving it as much attention as I think the expat community wants. I think the expat community wants it to get more attention. I think they'll give it attention, but I don't know if there's a lot of compassion there.
Yeah, man. I get a lot of comments about this from obviously foreigners complaining that, hey, when are they going to do something about the foreigners dying, getting drugged and robbed and stuff. And as sad as that is, in my opinion, there's no help coming. There is no help coming, because look at all the stuff that they're dealing with you and all these exploitation and stuff. That's vulnerable people who have done nothing wrong. Their whole life has been ruined, right? Plus the crime and the other things that are happening in the city as well. They have bigger problems than Americans coming and trying to sleep with some women, ignoring all the red flags, and then getting drugged and robbed. As sad as that is, these situations, 99% of them can be avoided. And as you know, the no dar papaya, don't be an easy target culture, is not going to warrant them actually caring about these people. I don't think help is coming, man. I think it's up to us to actually be smarter, be more educated, and don't put ourselves or not us, but the people who are doing it, don't put themselves in these types of situations over and over and over and over again. Because how much content about this is on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok for years now?
There's even something on the U.S. Embassy's website that's like, if you're traveling to Colombia, do not use dating apps.
Unless you've been living under a rock now, you should know this, right? But the problem is, guys know and they do it anyway. A guy comes up to me in the airport one day. I'm flying somewhere in Medellin airport. This guy comes running up to me like Usain Bolt. I'm like, holy shit, what's this guy gonna do to me? And he's like, hey, are you Joel? Are you AK? I'm like, yeah. He's like, man, I watched all your videos. I watched all your videos about dating and all the tips and stuff, but I got drug and robbed anyway. I'm like, what did you do? Did you follow my tips? He's like, nah, I did the opposite. Like, man, you see what I mean here? So why would the Colombian government put all this money and effort into helping people who don't help themselves?
They're already short funded as well. Like, that's probably it's such a good way to summarize it too. Like, there's no help coming. They're aware, but there's probably no help coming. For one, is that Libertas gives them a new tip probably every 16 days on average of like, hey, our girl just mentioned this guy, he lives in this apartment, he's from Dallas, Texas, or he's from Kentucky or wherever, and give him the intel. And that's always a priority for them, just based on their love for our survivors, for the people that call us home. Just at the emotional level, that's always going to be like, okay, well, foreigner that got drugged, we'll deal with that later. 14-year-old girl who's being abused by some guy in El Poblado from Dallas, Texas, that's now our priority. And then the resources. There's just not enough resources to do that. There was a case that we had a Colombian woman who was selling her 14-year-old daughter to other Colombians. So a Colombian case, no American or expat involvement at all. Just a Colombian on a Colombian crime. We rescued the 14-year-old girl, and her mother fled to Armenia. And the Colombian cops from Medellin wanted to arrest her, but didn't have the gas to get to Armenia to arrest her and bring her back, and then the food for the night. And so for us, like, we made an investment on the Colombian police for like $110 US dollars that allowed them to take that money, go get that trafficker, arrest her, bring her back, and pay for their food for the day. Like, they don't have $110 when you're talking about like this crime as well, like the foreigners dying, the no help coming. It's not just like there's no emotional help coming. There's also not much financial support to really go in depth on these crimes as well.
Tell us about Libertas, how we can find you and how we can help.
Libertias International is the nonprofit that I run. We don't just work in Medellin, even though Medellin is our biggest office. It's where we support the most survivors. It's where we spend 95% of our funding. And yeah, you can find us on all major social media channels. We're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok. And what we do is essentially we support survivors of human trafficking.
I'm going to put the link to your website in the description of this video. So if anyone wants to go and donate to your cause or just get some more information about it, they can. So guys, if you're watching, the link is in the description. Very impressed. I'm sure everyone watching this video would love to thank you as well. Thank you, and thank to all the girls as well for being brave enough to talk about this. I know that one main driver that stops a lot of people speaking out is exactly what you said, trauma. Every time they need to repeat the facts of the case, they're imagining that in their mind, and that's not easy for anyone, especially, you know, girls of such a young age. So good on them for doing that to help future victims. With all the hundreds of maybe thousands of people that you've helped arrest, do you see any common patterns or demographics or interests, activities, whatever, that are common between all the people that do these crimes?
I got asked once, on the news of, what makes these people turn into predators, what makes these people travel, what makes these people do all this. And I've thought a lot about that. Like, I haven't done as much research as I probably should of why these people do what they do, what makes them tick. Because honestly, like I tell you, just, as my mate, I just don't give a fuck. These people have abused, like, these people that I care so deeply about. They film them, they've ruined their life, they give zero fucks that, like, these girls have sometimes tried to kill themselves. I'm sure that there's a number of reasons of how they've converted into these predators and these sex tourists, but I'm going to let somebody else figure that out, because I don't care why they are the way they are. I just want to see them in handcuffs. I want to see them in jail. And I say that because it brings so much healing to the survivors that we work with when they finally know that the guy that abused them is in jail.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I asked you that question more around the fact that if we can identify exactly the demographic and what drives people to do this, we can catch it earlier. Because, once they've already done something, we arrest them. That's good, but, the damage already been done. So if we can catch it a bit earlier, maybe that helps. But, that's for smarter people than us to figure out, Tyler. But I want to ask you right now, us as expats, what can we do to help your cause, to help these children, to help make Medellin a better place, Tyler?
Medellin is such a beautiful city with beautiful people. It's the mountains, the lakes, the food, the coffee, the climate, the spirit of the city. Of 40 years ago it was a war zone, and now it's this thriving green paradise. There's people that love the city and they go there to live there, call home there, and to contribute to society there. I'm thankful for good expats to do that, and I just feel so bad for them now that these people like dominate these headlines, and it creates probably some unwanted attention on good expats who are there doing the right thing. And so I think the expat community to help out my cause is when you see something, report it. There's a lot of expats that I've met in the course of the last 6 months, specifically with this added attention on the crime, that was like, yeah, I knew, I just didn't say anything because, I just didn't know. And so if you see it, like, you can send a note to Libertas on X, on Facebook, on whatever. We get that into the hands of the right people. You can contact Homeland Security. You can contact the embassy. You can contact the police. If you're silent in these type of things, you're complicit with these people that are doing it. Like, they want you to shut up about it. That's what they want.